It's dogfight time, this time between the LG G2 and the Nokia Lumia 925. I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com. Let's put Android and Windows Phone, LG and Nokia, and more to the test and see which one comes out on top in part one. It's a dogfight between the LG G2, a high-end Android smartphone, and the Nokia Lumia 925, a Windows Phone 8 device available on T-Mobile and AT&T, and packs some metal to boot. Windows Phone 8 versus Android, let's put them together. It's part one. Let's take a look at these two devices. But before I get too far into the dogfight battle and the fun, we give special thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile. They give us free phones that we give to you on the site at instantwin.phonedog.com. So special thanks to them. When you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. So whether it's Android or Windows Phone you get, they'll make sure all your widgets or your live tiles, whichever device you end up getting, are working. It's part of their walkout working program where they make sure you're good to go before you walk out the door. Now let's do a quick spec rundown and take a look. In part one, I'll do my best to focus on the hardware itself. In part two, we'll take a look at some of the intricacies of the software and how Android differs from Windows Phone 8. Also, forgive me, I'm still recovering from that cold or sinuses, whatever it is, allergies, etc. So my voice is a little bit nasally, and I apologize for that. So LG G2 here, you're packing a 2.3 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 800 CPU. It is packing 2 gigabytes of RAM, a 5.2-inch 1080p HD display, a very unique design in the fact that it's got the volume rocker and power button on the back, 13 megapixel camera with optical image stabilization, a 3000 milliamp hour non-removable battery. Really a nice display all around. 4.3, 4G LTE, not 4.3. 4G LTE connectivity on the multiple carriers that support the G2. The Verizon one is slightly different looking. This is the GSM variant. You'll notice that the AT&T one looks very similar to the unlocked GSM variant. Here's the Lumia 925. This thing is packing 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU, a 2000 milliamp hour non-removable battery here. Got 1 gigabyte of RAM on this device, 4.5-inch display here, 768 by 1280 pixels. So you got 1080p HD over here. Pixel-wise, you're looking at 1080 by 1920. Over here, you're looking at 768 by 1280 on the Lumia 925. 8.7 megapixel camera on the back of this unit. It does bulge out just ever so slightly on the back, and it does have 1080p HD video recording capabilities. And also 4G LTE on both AT&T and on T-Mobile. So both are unique all around. Let's dive in and take a look at the hardware itself. Now LG's done some pretty impressive things with this device. You can see the power button and the volume rocker here on the back, and what I like about that is it is pretty ergonomically nice. It's pretty natural to have your finger resting on the power button or just below it, and it's easy to press either the power button or the volume rocker without having to reach around to the sides and pull it out of your pocket and try to reach for all those buttons on the side. It is really a nice ergonomic factor in this device, so it's a nice feature all around. You've got the nice big 5.2-inch display, the knock-knock feature, which you can tap the display to turn it on and off, a very unique feature to the LG G2, and it's not wanting to cooperate at the moment, as you can see. There we go, double tap and we'll turn that sucker back on. Otherwise, nothing on the sides with the exception of the micro SIM card tray here. You've got a tool needed to remove it, and up top, nothing here as well except for the IR blaster for LG's remote service, which you can see in the applications itself. Down here, take a look. Let's go find it. Where did it go? Quick remote. There it is on the unit. And then down here at the bottom, 3.5mm headphone jack. And of course, your micro USB charging port and speakers down here at the bottom of the unit. Over here on the Lumia 925, metal all around the sides, really giving it a nice premium feel. It's definitely the most premium feeling, at least out of devices that are available on the market, most premium feeling Windows Phone 8 device out there right now. You've got your volume rocker and power button and camera shortcut button all over on the right side in typical Windows Phone 8 Nokia Lumia style. Up top, you've got your micro SIM card slot, micro USB charging port, 3.5mm headphone jack, and nothing at the bottom. So really a nice clean design here all around. Nokia logo on the back, and you can see 4.5-inch display on the front. Capacitive buttons over on the Lumia 925, back, home, and Bing. Down here it's back, home, and recent applications. They are on-screen buttons, which we'll talk more about in the software. Speaking of, we're going to dive right in and take a look at the software. Android 4.2 Jelly Bean running over here, Windows Phone 8 running over here. Very different look and feel. You can see your applications here. We're going to click off of that, and you can see out of the box you do get the typical AT&T stuff, much like over here you do get the typical T-Mobile stuff, as you would expect. Code scanner, drive mode, family map, locker on the AT&T side over here. Plenty of stuff, name ID, T-Mobile's My Account, T-Mobile TV, and then wallet, Wi-Fi calling and more. So you get your fair share of carrier installed applications out of the box, but this is running Android 4.2 with LG's user interface, and their interface has taken a major step forward since the days, for example, back in 2011 when we saw it at Mobile World Congress on some of LG's high-end devices. Far step forward here, much better, and of course the quad-core Snapdragon 800 CPU makes this device exceptionally fast in day-to-day use. I've been very pleased overall with the speed, and this thing is very pocketable. LG says 5.2 inches is the perfect screen size because too big and you can't get it in your pocket or can't get your hands around it, too small, and it's not good for content consumption. 5.2 is the largest you can go and still use it with one hand, according to LG. So 13 megapixel camera on the back here. A little bit of a fingerprint magnet on the back. As you can see, it's glossy. It does attract fingerprints pretty easily. You got the AT&T logo over here as well, and then your earpiece up the top with your front-facing camera. But all in all, pretty fast device. You've got your typical apps drawer down here. Over on Windows Phone, you got your live tiles, and then just swiping over activates your applications area with alarms, all the typical stuff that you would expect. And as you add applications on Windows Phone 8, you'll notice that they'll categorize themselves out by alphabet. So for example, all of a sudden you download enough apps, H will appear, M will appear, etc. And much like you can in People, which we'll talk about in just a second. Actually, you know, we'll jump in there right now. Much like you can in People, it organizes itself very much like this, where you got your different letters for your various applications, and you can quickly scroll to J, for example, or P or V, and access applications that start with those letters. So it is nice. Windows Phone 8, Microsoft is all about getting you in, out, back to your lifestyle. That is one of the taglines they used for some time. So it is a very minimalist OS in comparison, at least from a look and feel standpoint, in comparison to Android 4.2. Let's take a look at the internet browser here, just doing kind of some app for app, if you will, performance stuff here. I'm going to phonedog.com, and I'll load up PhoneDog here because I want you to see the keyboard differences between these two devices. You can see here, standard numeric keypad on the LG G2. Obviously a larger display over here, 5.2 versus 4.5. It is higher resolution as well. But you got LG's keypad versus the standard Windows Phone 8 keypad. I find both to be useful in different types, or in different settings, if you will. And you can see both portrait to landscape, pretty fast here, so no real noticeable win there in terms of speed improvements. PhoneDog.com, or speed advantages, I should say. We'll load up PhoneDog.com over here. And both are pretty easy to type on. I do like Windows Phone 8's. Try to say that, Windows Phone 8's autocorrect, as opposed to the stock LG keyboard autocorrect. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a second, but you can see the mobile version loading up on the LG G2 over here. Pinch to zoom, nice and responsive. You can see, of course, portrait to landscape here, as you would expect, fast, thanks to the quad-core Snapdragon 800 CPU. And this moves exceptionally fast as well. The transitions are nice, and you get some really solid pinch to zoom action going on over here as well. You can add tabs on either one of these quickly and easily, and you'll notice that in the bottom area there, the on-screen buttons are staying right there on the LG G2. We can throw up another one and go ahead and type something in, or we can do the same thing over here. And let's say, you know what, we're going to say the quick. Now, you know what, we're going to do this. Go back to messaging. That's where we'll pick up. Let's go down to messages, and let's go down to messages here, and we'll go into both of these and take a look at the keyboard a little bit more one-on-one. So that's a read-only message. Let's go ahead and back out and go to 1511. And I can say, hey there, how are you doing? And let's just say, hey there, now are you doing? So I can change the words around. I can say, instead of doing, maybe I meant to type along. I can just click on those and pick another one of the most frequently used words. Over here, definitely the best keyboard LG's done in some time. It still does need maybe a little bit of work. I have some times, or some challenges from time to time. Fox is happy. Happy it is Tuesday. And it'll auto-correct and auto-capitalize for me. So relatively easy to type on. I still would recommend, if you don't like LG's keyboard, downloading a third-party alternative. You can do that, at least in its current configuration, on Windows Phone 8. Keep it locked for part 2 of the dogfight. We'll talk more about the differences between Android and Windows Phone 8. We'll talk about what's better for what situations, and we'll wrap it up with a camera comparison between these two devices. Stay tuned for the dogfight.